part two of how we bring the potential out in our child. As a parent, that's our goal, bring forth the most potential in our child, right? Not to make them necessarily happy all the time, but to bring forth that potential. Just a way to think about it, right? We obviously want them to be happy, okay? But the main goal here, as the Latin would tell us, is that potential. And so we want to focus on the process. I've talked about that a little bit already when we talked about effort. And so we're going to talk about Carol Dweck's work. Okay, and Carol Dweck has a great video here. And I don't want you to be put off by this video because it's about fifth graders. Because when I was 35 years old, I watched this video and it has changed my life. It's changed my speech and it's changed the way that I've done pretty much everything. And so I want you to watch this. You can apply it to yourself. You can apply it to your kids, whatever it may be, but I hope to engage you in this video for a few minutes as you learn about what some research tells us about praise in versus the results.
So check this out. Carol Dweck and her colleagues wanted to look into the impacts that praise had on children's development. So what they did is they took over 400 fifth grade students from all across the nation and they did a really simple yet interesting study. Here's how it went down. They gave all the kids a really easy non-verbal IQ test. There were 10 questions and at the end of the test they praised all the children in one of two ways. The first group was praised for their intelligence. So they said, "Wow, great job, you must be really smart at this." Now the second group was praised for their effort. So they said, "Wow, great job, you must have worked really hard at this." Now this is a really subtle difference, but the impact it had is incredible. So after praising the kids and getting them divided up into the two groups, they gave them all an option for their next test. The first option was, hey, this next test is going to be a little bit harder, but it's going to be a great opportunity to learn and grow. Now the second option was, this next test will be similar to the first and you will surely do well on it. Now the interesting thing is, out of the group that was praised for their intelligence, 67% of them chose the easier option, while 92% of the kids who were praised for their effort chose the harder test. This is unbelievable to think about, how just the subtle difference in the way that they were praised had such an impact. Carol Dweck explains why this happens.
The child or adult hears, "Oh, you think I'm brilliant and talented. That's why you admire me, that's why you value me. I better not do anything that will disprove this evaluation." As a result, they enter a fixed mindset, they play it safe in the future, and they limit the growth of their talents. Whereas focusing on the strategies they use, the way they're stretching themselves and taking on hard tasks, the intense practice they're doing, those are the kinds of things that say to a child or an older athlete, it's about the process of growth. As a result, they don't feel, oh, if I make a mistake, you won't think I'm talented. They think, oh, if I don't take on hard things and stick to them, I'm not going to grow.
Next, Dweck and her colleagues gave all the kids a really difficult test. It was one that they would surely fail, but they wanted to look at how the different kids attacked this challenge. Dweck noticed that the group that was praised for effort worked harder, longer, and actually enjoyed this test more than the group that was praised for their intelligence. This group got really frustrated with this test and had the tendency to give up early. After this artificially induced failure round, all of the kids were given a third and final test. Now this test was the same level of difficulty as the first one, but check out the results. The group that was praised for their intelligence actually did worse on this test than the first one. Their average score actually dropped by 20%, while the group that was praised for their effort did significantly better, raising their average score by nearly 30%. This is a 50% difference in performance that was caused by a few subtle differences in the way that they were praised. This study shows how praise can either make or break a child's development. I mean, we all do it. We all want to be positive with the children we work with, so teachers, coaches, parents are always looking for ways to support their kids and tend to praise them quite a bit. So we need to look at research like this and realize, Okay, praise is a good thing and there's nothing wrong with being positive, but we need to be very careful about praising someone's intelligence or abilities and focus more on the process and the effort that they put forth.
And so well-meaning, loving people are accidentally praising the results. And we're ensuring that kids have a fixed mindset. I'm sure you saw some of those characteristics we were talking about earlier. And again, this is not to knock us. I was doing this wrong my entire life. People did this to me this way my entire life. And I'm a well-meaning, loving person who cares about my kids, cares about the people I coach, cared about my students, and I was still doing this. And what I was doing was messing with the subconscious, praising that result. And the way she explained it in a deeper thought was that it's like a math problem done quickly. So for example, in a classroom, if someone's doing a 1 through 33 assignment and all the students are doing that, and the teacher's job is she wants to go around and be positive with everyone. And so she sees somebody in the front row do the first 7 problems really quickly. And she goes, "Oh, you're so smart. You're so fast at this. Keep it up." Which is great. It's a nice thing. It's really positive. But again, the subconscious, which we cannot control, is saying, "I'm smart because I did it fast, and I have to keep that up." And now what's crazy is we know that it gets harder, right? And we also know that smart doesn't mean fast. Smart means correct. And so although we know all those things and we're trying to be positive, one simple comment is changing the brain's way that they're seeing this. And then later she sees the teacher laughing, high-fiving kids as it's further on when she's stuck in the middle of that assignment. And now she's thinking like, I'm not fast anymore. Am I not smart? How come they're getting the praise? Is the teacher going to think that I'm dumb now? And you start to hear the percentages going through that child's head that we talked about in the beginning, all because we tried to be positive with those that we were leading. And so when I show this chart, it's something I want you to look at. I'm going to explain it. But the first thing I always try to point out is that the results based on the left, they're short, they're sweet, they're positive, they feel good, right? We want to be positive. This is a common way to do it, and we do this all the time. The process ones on the right are a lot harder. They're more difficult to build. They have different focus in their sentence, right? They're about virtues, they're about attitudes, they're about things that can be controlled, right? And so we see those things. And so what I want to show you is this first one. My daughters, they love art. They love doing all these things at home, making projects and all this stuff. And they come up to me all the time looking for positive reinforcement. "Daddy, look what I made. Look at this." And in that moment, I just want to be positive with them and encourage them to keep doing it and keep making. And I'll say, like, "Oh, I could say things like, 'Oh, that's amazing. Oh, you're such a good artist. It's beautiful.'" Those things may be true, but they're also result oriented. So subconsciously, she's getting the feedback that Daddy loves this because it's perfect, because it's beautiful, because I'm a great artist. And what if I can't keep up with that? So maybe instead I could say, "Oh, this is so creative. I can tell that you worked hard on that you really tried hard to stay within the lines, that you really spent time picking out your colors." Because really what I want them to do over time is I want them to know that it's important to work hard, to be creative, to be careful, to not rush, to do your best. And so I can say those things, right? And I can accidentally say, "Oh, that is so beautiful." And it's beautiful because it's so creative. I can tell that you worked hard on it. So I can even catch myself, the skill building of catching myself in the result oriented area and then describing why I said that. That description is often the process side of things. The second one, my son is 9 years old. He's learning to play golf. He's not like the Tiger Woods prodigy. He didn't hit 250 golf balls when he's 3 years old and he's already, killing it. He's just learning the game and it's hard for him. And sometimes we'll be out hitting and he'll be hitting it bad. And he'll say to me, "Dad, why am I bad at golf? Am I bad at golf? Why is this so hard for me?" And all I want to say to him to keep him encouraged is, "No, you're not bad at golf. You're great, buddy. You're so good. Just keep at it." And so what I'm doing there is I'm doing 2 things. Number one, I'm lying to him because he's not great and he's not good. I don't say that to be me and I say it to be true. He's not good. Why am I going to tell him he's good? Right? But the second thing is I'm talking about his result. So I'm giving him a false recognition of his greatness in a result-oriented fashion. That's a double whammy, right? Maybe what I could do is I could say, "Hey, Jake, it is a hard game, but you're improving every day. And the more that you practice, the better you're going to get," as Merzenich rings in my ears, right? The more you work at it, the more time you spend keeping your head down, doing these things, the better you're going to get at it. And I always tell them, I don't care about if you're better or worse than somebody else. I care about your best effort and that you're doing your best. And it's just a little phrase that we have between us that says, what does Daddy care about? He says, Daddy cares about doing my best. And it's about the process and about the effort and the controllable. So that's an example. And the third example there gets back to home for me. Dr. Sarah Schnichter out of Baylor University talks about virtues that leaders can create in those that they lead. She did some amazing studies on this. And one of the things that she found was that a leader who's a result-oriented, win-at-all-costs kind of person, although they're trying to be positive with people and get positive outcomes, like most of us well-meaning, loving leaders, they're more focused on the result. And unfortunately, she found that in that scenario, when that's the type of leader that's existing, whether that's a parent, a coach, whoever, the main virtues that come out of that sort of leadership are lie, steal, and cheat. It's amazing to think that that's what comes out of that sort of leadership when we focus on the result. And I'll tell you what, I guarantee you those coaches weren't trying to be negative and make anybody a liar, a stealer, or a cheater. Just like me when I grew up, I was pretty good in school. And my parents tried to be positive, say, Kev, you're so smart. You know, you're so smart. Keep at it. Keep that GPA up. Oh no, you can get it because you're smart. I didn't want to let them down because I didn't want to stop getting their praise. And my teachers didn't want to make me a cheater. Oh, Kev, you can do better than this because you're smart. You know, you're the kind of kid that has a high GPA. Like, you can keep this up, and we're going to push you. And I didn't want to let them down. And so, you know what I got really good at? I got really good at writing stuff on my hand so I could remember vocab words. I got really good at writing papers that I would put up my sleeve. I got really good at writing formulas on my desk in pencil that I could wipe off with my sweat. I also got really good at not being okay for the test and maybe missing the day or something like that, where then I could say to my classmate, hey, what was on that test? So that I could study more effectively and get that grade and keep that mark. Now, again, I'm fine now. I'm here today. I made it. But certainly that's not what people wanted for me. No teacher here wanted that. No parent wanted that for me. But that's what came out because it was accidentally trying to be positive with me, a result-oriented thing. And so instead, maybe it's, hey, it's great to see your hard work pay off in a score like that. Or, man, you worked hard on that, but you didn't get the results you wanted. What do you think you could do differently next time? And all of a sudden, we're talking about those descriptive things, which are more process-oriented about that, what we can control. And so it's a lot harder to give process feedback. I often hear myself giving that result feedback, even out of habit, to my kids every day. And I do this all the time, right? And I work on this all the time, but I've learned the skill of switching it quickly to that descriptor so that they know it's not just about the result. It's about all these other things that helped with that result as I try to be positive. A parent told me one time, it's kind of like dessert versus a nutrient-rich diet, where the results are the dessert. They're sweet, they taste good, they're in the moment, but they're short-lived. The other thing we know about dessert is if we focus dessert as our diet, our body's not going to work very well. It's going to shut down in certain ways, and it's not going to be its best. And on the other hand, nutrient-rich diet takes a lot longer to prepare, to gather the materials, to do it right, but man, does it feed us. Does it give us that sustained energy over time and help our body and brain work at its best? And so what I ask of you in this fork in the road is, we all know it's a good idea to do process feedback, but how disciplined can you be of staying on that path? It's a challenge. It's a challenge for me every single day to make sure that I'm feeding back the process. Because we all know it's really easy for us not to put pies on the table for dinner. But it's a lot harder to discipline ourselves to not give result feedback all the time. And I want to encourage you that we're allowed to have dessert. Thanksgiving's coming up. We love to have a nice piece of pie, cookie, something like that. But we also know that that percentage, that proportion, has to be much more nutrient rich than dessert if we want our kids to work at their best, want our bodies to work at its best. So that's my challenge to you in this fork in the road. You can keep going being positive. Maybe more result-oriented than not. You'll make it. Your kid might make it just like me. But maybe there's a different payoff. Maybe there's something greater if we can try to do it a different way. Focus on that process more often when we talk to them to develop that growth-oriented mindset.